But yeah, so my name is Joel. Like I said, I'm currently connecting from Madrid in Spain. I've been involved with weird topics like out-of-body experiences, energy, chakras, past life memories, things like that, including what we're talking about today for many, many years. It all started for me since I was, well, as long as I can remember, really, about 7 or 8 years old when I started having out-of-body experiences spontaneously when I was a kid. And as always, a kid is very curious, so you start to figure out things and ask why this happens and why that happens. And I came up with loads of answers that weren't necessarily suitable for my taste. They were a little bit, oh, it just happens because the universe wants you to have it, instead of, but why and how? And throughout my life, I was wanting to find out more about these things, reading probably over 100 books on the subject. And these related subjects, and then coming across the IAC, who many other organizations as well, but specifically the IAC, who had a more scientific, without being too academic and boring point of view. It was more about experimentation, consensus, and trying to experience things for myself rather than just being taught things with a video and a book without ever actually experiencing something. So I really liked them. And then I joined them as a volunteer and an instructor later on. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. I'm also involved in many other companies and organizations. I'm the CEO of a software company that works with 3D printing and manufacturing. I'm an advisor in a couple of companies, usually technology related. These two are technology related with their boards and their founders. So quite business minded, quite engineering and technical focused, but also into the spiritual things. So just to prove that it doesn't always have to be either or, you can actually live in a real physical reality and still want to learn and evolve spiritually as well. And that's what I do. So that's me. You'll of course be able to ask me questions as we start to get into question mode later on. The IIC, very simply, it's an organization that has existed for the last 3 decades, 20 years really, as a legal entity, nonprofit in the US. We had our headquarters there and also in Portugal, where we have a research campus. And it was co-founded by Nancy Trivelato and Wagner Allegretti from Brazil, who started teaching about these subjects many, many years ago. They're very well experienced, and they had a team of people with them that helped them get this into the place where we are today. We're quite global in terms of the reach, especially now since COVID, it's all virtual. So it makes things easier because we don't have to get everybody to travel 10 time zones to find us. And we've been teaching courses specifically on energy, chakras, out-of-body experiences, and many other related topics in one course, which is called the Consciousness Development Program. So I'll share the link later on, and you'll probably get it in the email. So if you want to find out more about the program, but it's really a very, on-demand, live as well program where you can talk to instructors about a series of topics related to the consciousness and our development. It's not just about OBEs, but it's about everything related to our evolution as a consciousness. But today we're not going to talk about that. We may have another session on those things. I'll show a quick video. Some of you will have seen it already because we had a session, I think it was about 3 months ago or something like that. It's just 3 minutes just to show you a bit about our campus, and then we'll kick off into the session. So nice relaxing music just to calm our nerves after a very hectic Sunday, I'm sure. But it's a nice video to show you where we normally are. So it's really great to be able to spend some time there first, because it's a very beautiful natural setting in the middle of Portugal. And I think this just started playing again.
Space telescope is in a way.
Close it. There we go. And it was it's quite nice to spend some time there. Anybody can go. So this is really for you to go. We have sometimes we have courses there, of course, but also people who just simply book some time, a week in the lodge. And there's lots of things you can do in the area, plus experiment in the labs and meet some of our instructors who live there. And other people that come. Some people want to go write a book. Some people want to go and write a dissertation for their master's degree. We had somebody who stayed for like 6 months doing that. And it's, an hour and a half from Lisbon, just 40 minutes from Spain. So it's very good to travel around. But this is not a travel guide, but it's really beautiful to go. So if you're interested, we have lots of events coming up. And you can find more information on our main website, which is, thank you, Giles, you just shared it on the chat. So yeah, if you go to iscworld.org, you can find tons of information about it. Just don't go right now, because if you go right now, then you'll be distracted by that instead of the talk. But definitely Wendy will probably share some links afterwards in the emails that you send at the end. But great. So what we're going to be talking about today is the law of attraction, how it works, why it works. And there's one thing or a premise before we start, because people always think, but why does it work for some people, not for others? Why are some people super lucky, everything just goes well, nothing ever goes badly, and others are super unlucky? The good thing is all of us are actually perfect at using the law of attraction already. So the problem is not being able to use the law of attraction or manifestation, is what are we attracting and what are we manifesting. But the way we exist and the way things work today, whether you believe in a universe that gives you things, or whether you believe in science, we are attracting what we ourselves somehow want. Sometimes, of course, it's things we think we wouldn't want, which is hard to believe, but it's all related to how the process of attracting works. So first things, we all do it. So there's nobody better than others at the law of attraction. But of course, there are people better than others at really being super razor sharp about focusing on what they really want and the reality they want to create. There's tons of books about this out there. There's a super marketed one that came out a few years ago called The Secret. I don't know if you've read it. There's also a documentary called The Secret based on the book. Interesting. It has a lot of interesting concepts, but it still left me a little bit wanting, like many others, because how does it actually work? Why would putting a picture of the house of my dreams on a visualization board in my kitchen and in my bedroom, why does that work? And there's loads of reasons, and we're not going to cover all of them in these next hour and 10 minutes or so, but definitely find literature and videos that you find interesting, but always going back to the main principle. It's all about beliefs, your personal beliefs. Somebody who believes that things will go well, that truly believes that at the core of their being, things will be okay, I'm going to be fine, whatever happens. If something is starting to look a little bit ugly and like it's going to go in a really bad situation, wishful thinking is one thing, and it doesn't always work. Knowing at your core that whatever obstacles, we can overcome them is a great way to start. But exploring beliefs a little bit deeper than that, I don't know if you've read a book by Jane Roberts, some of you may have heard, called something about Seth, either Seth Speaks, Seth That. Forgetting about how she wrote those books, she was a medium that channeled an entity called Seth. Remove that if you don't believe in those things. The book that is about our reality and the nature of our personal reality, that's the title of the book, gives you a lot of very key topics that I'll be talking about today from the IAC's perspective, but in a very, very down-to-earth way. And it's all about our belief systems. How do we set them up in a way that the energy that I radiate, the thoughts that I produce, the emotions that I produce, what my body physically produces, is all aimed at what I want to achieve. For example, if I want to lose weight and be healthy and live 20 more years of life than I would if I don't change my diet, for example, imagine that I'm super unhealthy, eating McDonald's every day. Just writing a statement that I am healthy and that I'm going to live until I'm 100 super well, and all of these things, it doesn't matter at all if I still don't take steps to change myself. If I still, just lie on the couch, eating badly, and just repeating myself every day that I'm actually super healthy, at your core, you don't believe that. You see why it would be counterintuitive. Or if you suddenly write something like, imagine that you want to have a Ferrari, you want a car, a super Ferrari, Lamborghini, but actually everything in your daily actions, everything in your mood, in the way that you talk about other people, in the way that you talk about somebody who is driving that car that you want. Imagine it's not a Ferrari, but it's a nice BMW convertible, a little bit more affordable than a supercar. If the way you talk about people that drive those cars is, oh, they're probably corrupt, really bad people, look at all that money, your beliefs at your core are that having money is bad, that having money, the only way to do it is if you're corrupt and if you stole from people and if you pushed others down. So if you start to evaluate your beliefs about that particular thing you want, it doesn't matter how many times you write it and put it on a visualization board, you're self-sabotaging. Because, in Venezuela, we say each thief judges others based on that thief's own condition. There's a joke that it goes that there's a man that it goes to some sort of hen house in a farmhouse and to steal a hen, and in the middle of the night leaves with a hen behind his back. The police just drive in front and they stop him to ask him, hey, excuse me, do you need any help? And it's really late. But before the police even ask, the thief says, what chicken? You already come with a prejudgment of others based on your experience, and that's what we project. So if we think about beliefs and at the core of who we are, what we really believe on, is it compatible with what I'm trying to project and achieve? And more importantly, because surely the answer will be for some things, yes, it's aligned and compatible. For many others, my beliefs are not compatible with what I want. How do I change them? How do I start to behave differently, think differently? And it will be a stepping stones type of process to get to a point where I can believe, actually, I can get that car and I can have, meet the love of my life and have a super healthy life, which maybe today it's impossible for me to believe in. But if I believe in the steps to get there and I start to take action, I can. So a lot in there, but to start to think and bring this down into like minute detail. When we think about techniques that you hear, and I'm sure many of you have been hearing and reading books and watching YouTube of techniques to visualize something, to feel like you've already got it, to say that instead of you wanting something, no, I already have it. That is great. And it does work in a way, but only if at your core of your beliefs, at the core of your beliefs, you really believe it. If it's just words, but that's not how you feel, and it's not what you really believe, and you're still doubting yourself, even subconsciously, it's not going to work. So we have to work at a deeper level to get there. And it could take a long time. It doesn't have to be instant. It's not going to be immediate. If I want to get healthy and have a healthy body and strong and eat well, buying really junk food, really bad food, junk food, and staying in the sofa watching TV, no, it doesn't matter how many times I wish to be different, that's not going to change. I have to start taking steps. So what to do? If you, and let's pick usually what most people think about, right? Financial independence. Whether you want to win the lottery and be a billionaire, let's forget about those extreme scenarios, but financial independence. I don't want to have to worry about how I'm going to pay the bills tomorrow or for the next 20 years. Of course, that means you feel comfortable, you feel great, you have a roof over your house, different levels of comfort, but how to get there from the perspective of the law of attraction. What have I been taught since I was very young about money? How was I taught about money? What are the views that I have about money? Because how I view money, and I'll give you some examples that are counterproductive in terms of how we view money, it really determines what's going to happen to me from a financial perspective. If I was taught that there's not enough money for everybody, that for you to get more money, somebody else has to lose money, which in turn means for somebody else to be rich, you have to lose money, that there's no way to get it by working hard and keeping your head down, that you have to steal. If that's how we grew up, and we grew up with a mindset of scarcity, that it's never enough, that it's unachievable, that is like brainwashing. We will always believe that. And that will always be at the back of our minds, no matter what I try to change, unless I go to the root of that. So if we think about financial stability and all of these things, for some people, it may be super easy. Maybe they've had it easy since they were born. And it's easy for them to believe that, yeah, of course, it's not a problem. I'm going to have money my whole life. For others, it may not be the case. So how to start changing it can be a very long process, because the first things I have to start thinking about, and I'm taking the example of money, but it could be the example of beauty, self-worth, how others see you. It could be any concept you think about. What at my core do I believe about myself is possible? And some things you won't even know about. So there's a lot of deep digging, and there's a lot of people that we coach in these things, not just law of attraction. Any sort of evolutionary path requires some coaching to really figure out. And it's really tough. It's not easy. So I'm not going to say that, oh, if you apply this technique and you write these 5 things a day, you will figure it all out. The answer is there, but to find out things that I may not want to see is difficult, because it comes from our parents, our societies, where we grew up, the group of friends we were in, things we did that determined how we see that particular thing. Let's think about health, because money, and before we finish with money, actually, one final thing is money for some types of people with particular ways of thinking, many of us included, by the way. I'm not saying it's others and not us, many people here, including me. As we grow up, for example, depending on your religion or your political party, the way that people think about money is that it's bad. That's the first thing. Some people ask us, but you teach these spiritual things at the IAC. Why do you charge money for that? You should give it away for free. These are concepts everybody should know about. Yes, but we live in a physical reality where you cannot live out of energy only. At least I'm not at that level. So if you think that money goes against spiritual development, that is a concept that comes from many schools of thought that have instilled that into people. Why did the Catholic Church, as it started to become the Catholic Church in the early 2nd, 3rd century, why did it start doing that? Control. And I'm not here to blame the Catholic Church. I went to Catholic school. It's just the religion I know the most. But every religion, every sect, every cult, every political party, they all have been trying to control the people that they're trying to serve, whether they do it consciously or not. So we grew up with a lot of those prejudgments or preconceptions. So we need to evaluate that. So in terms of money, thinking that money is bad, for me, money is energy. Exactly the same thing as petrol, as electricity. It's just money. It's what gets you from A to B. It's how you use it that determines if you use it well or not. Is a gun bad, or is the atomic bomb, or the bomb maybe was bad, but the atomic energy, is it bad? No, how we use it will determine it. So many of us had these preconceived ideas since we were very young, and until we remove those, we're never going to be able to have a healthy relationship, in this case with money. But it's the same with health. If, for example, we are taught that actually past the age of 30, everything is downhill. And then when you get to 30, just to make ourselves feel better, no, it's after 40. And then we're 40, no, it's after I'm 60. And when you're 60, no, it's later. But if we always believe that it's actually downhill, that there's no way to get to a healthy late age and die happy and healthy, we will live life the way we expect it. Why are some people, there was a lady in Italy, 100 years old, who just renewed her driving license, super healthy. Why can she do it? Genetics plays a role, yes, but only to a certain point. If we study a bit about epigenetics, the genes we've got, we initially thought many decades ago, we meaning scientists who study these things, not me, that we had like 100,000 genes. based on the fact that we thought one gene expresses one phenotype, one physical characteristic, or one prone disease, whatever. Actually, we don't have 100,000, we have 20 whatever thousand genes, but the environment turns some of them on and off, the environment of the cells, the environment around us. And yes, genetics can play a role in health, but there's many things we can control of that environment that will help us have a gene for a particular disease shut down completely, so it never appears. So how did we grow up thinking about health? So, and until now, I'm not talking about the law of attraction. I mean, I am, but I'm talking about it from a physical perspective. This is nothing mystical. People that have a very positive outlook in life and truly believe it usually get over diseases a lot faster. The placebo effect is a real thing that is taught in med school. 30% of patients that are given placebo get better. Why? They don't understand how that works, but it has to do with our mentality. Cancer patients' mentality plays a big role in how you see your disease. So if we think about diseases and health, what was I taught? Do I believe that I can actually get to 90 or 100 healthily with my mind intact? Of course, with some limitation, perhaps, but at least I can walk, I can drive, I can go to the supermarket and simply die peacefully. Is that how I see myself? Or because of my experience, do I think that after 50, you start to lose all your teeth and you get very unhealthy, and that's what you expect? Why all of these things matter, at least from a physical perspective, not only because of psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy. If you're interested in these things, they give you a lot of clues as to how all of this gels together. But also, if we think about quantum physics and the observer effect, I don't know if you've seen any videos on quantum physics, but basically at the very, very core level that we can see today of particles, reality exists because we observe it. And if we don't observe it, many alternatives exist, usually two, according to quantum physics, but I'm not a physicist. Maybe there's a million, but there's at least two until you observe it, and then reality comes together. And this has been proven scientifically in terms of particles of light behaving like waves of particles and many other experiments. So why, if at that level, we already know that observing it with an expectation to see X brings about X, why isn't it true about the bigger macro reality? Because logically, if that's the thing that makes up particles, everything else should be the same. And it is. It's just that it takes time. It's a bit slower. Also, maybe because our beliefs are that we cannot manifest something immediately. I've never seen anybody materialize an apple out of thin air. Maybe it is possible for some people, but I haven't seen it because I don't believe it's possible for me. I'm not going to materialize an apple, but also I don't have any interest in doing that. But for more down-to-earth things, think about it in that way. Our belief systems first, that's what sets off everything else. What behaviors are driven by those beliefs? What do I do in my day-to-day? How do I think and feel during my day-to-day? Are my actions aligned with what I'm trying to attract? The answer is yes, because we are always attracting things. The problem is, what am I attracting, and why are these the actions, thoughts, beliefs, emotions that are attracting those things? How do I start to change them? And this is where you start to hear about visualization boards and mantras or affirmations that you can write, and visualizing, feeling like you've already got it. It's because you want your brain and your body and yourself, I say because you are more than just your brain or your body, to really change those beliefs, feel what it's like to exist and manifest the reality that you want, and ultimately change the old patterns. But if we jump directly from the brink of poverty and bankruptcy to thinking tomorrow all of my bills are paid, I won't have any financial difficulty, how hard is that to believe? Because I wouldn't believe it for myself if I were in that situation. It's such a massive leap that, even though it is possible, by the way, if my beliefs don't allow me to think that that's possible, I have to find an alternative that takes me there. It could be Well, imagine that my beliefs are that that's going to take me 20 years. Well, it will take me 20 years, but at least I have a plan together. Will it take me 1 year? I don't know. But whatever you believe is possible, that's what will happen. If you keep pushing the law of attraction, and I'll give you some clear guidance on how to do it, of course, but it's important to understand the concepts. Otherwise, the algorithms on how to do it are meaningless and they won't work. If when I'm applying the algorithm, I don't believe at my core that they will actually work, and it's just, okay, yes, this will work, but I open my eye to really see, no, it's really working. And then I open my eye to check. That means I don't believe it's working. That means I have some doubt, which is fine. How can I trick my mind to believe in something that I think, okay, that I can believe, that is possible. And for you, it will be different. For some people, the possible might be, I'm going to send 10 or 20 CVs per day for the next 20 days. And that's like 400 applications of jobs. And I am going to find the job that I want. That is believable. There's an actionable plan. It's something that you can do. It doesn't feel too hocus pocus. It will just come from the ether. You are thinking that that is possible. Why do people in high school and university pass or fail exams? Because not only do they believe they can pass or fail, they have to work for it. If I believe that I can pass an exam without studying just because of luck, because it's multiple choice, guess what? I might be lucky and pass it. But if I believe that it takes a lot of hard work and studies and long nights and doing homework, if I don't do these things and I just play with my friends, it won't work. So action plays an important role. It's not just lying in a sofa saying, universe, give me money tomorrow, because that's not going to be believable to your inner core, subconscious. That's not how we were. That's not how we grew up. That's not how we're trained to think. So we have to trick the brain into thinking in a way that I think is possible. And these things will evolve in the sense that as you start to get positive results, you will take a bigger leap. You will take a bigger leap of faith and think, okay, well, if that's possible, what about that? Ask people who have done what you want, how they did it, because there's a reason they're there. It could be your sister, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor. So we can start to get ideas of how it has worked for others. For example, I remember when I first moved to London, in this case, I wanted to buy my first property, but I had no idea how, like how much deposit do you have to buy? How does the mortgage system work? So fantasizing about, an apartment by the river with beautiful views without even knowing the real estate market, I didn't feel for me that was real. So I had to go and figure it out and find out. And of course, eventually then you get what you want. But you need to start in steps. I know that in many books and many videos of the law of attraction, the first thing they say, think big, there's no limit. That is absolutely right. But if you go back to your core beliefs, if you don't believe that that's true, it will not happen. So you need to train yourself into believing and feeling and seeing that that really is true for it to work. Until you really, really, really feel it, it won't work. That's why the visualization board is there. If I can see that other people have done it, if I can see, for example, for me at work, I was 24, started working in a big company. I was like at the lowest rank possible after you're a graduate from university. I had no idea how people became CEOs, and I wanted to be a CEO. That's what I had in my mind, rightly or wrongly. But just thinking, I'm going to be a CEO, I'm going to be a CEO. But how? What skills do you need? You need to meet people, do some research. You have to act. And of course, believe that if that person has done it, so can I. Why couldn't I? Otherwise, you're blocked from the start. If I think I'm never going to be good for that, I can't do that, you will attract that. And that's, of course, again, going back to your beliefs. So the first thing is break it into steps. If you don't think what you can do really is achievable, that's fine. Break it into 3 steps. Bring it to still a big leap, but that you think is achievable. Paying off all of your debts. And depending on the size of your debts and your income, it might take 20 years, 5 or 3, but set a target and say, you know what? I had, when I moved to London from Italy, a massive credit card debt. I don't know why on earth in Italy they would give a student so much credit card. Crazy. But of course, I had to pay it off. And I thought it was going to take me like 10 years to pay off. Set a plan, set a target. We can actually do it. And things will happen as you do these things that you never expected. So when I say break it down into chunks, I don't mean plan the minute detail of how everything is going to work out, because that will be limiting. We will be planning it based on our experience. And to give you an example, I might think, oh, it's going to take me 10 years to do that. But hold on, it could take you 6 months. It's just that there are things that could happen that you're not aware of that could do that in 6 months. So while you don't want to limit yourself, you want to make it realistic, expect the unexpected. Because it will happen. And you probably have examples in your life when things came out of nowhere and it was exactly what you needed at the time that you needed it. It could be a phone call from someone. It could be, I don't know, a message that you saw on TV that it resonated with you. Things will start to come to you in a way that it really helps you in ways that you didn't expect. It could be very specific things. To give you an example, because I want to give examples here of how it has worked for me as well. It's not just talking about this concept. I remember I once wanted to do, in fact, the CDP, the Consciousness Development Program at the IAC in 2013. And I remember at the time I didn't have the money to pay for it. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to save. Maybe it might take me a few months, maybe after next summer. And fine, I'll do it later. But time passed. I wanted to do that. And I thought, no, you know what? I'm going to do it. I registered. I didn't have the money to pay for it. It was started in like a month and a half. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I don't know how it will work, but I really believed it. And this was not even applying the law of attraction. I knew about it, but I wasn't following any algorithm. Maybe that's why it worked. I just made a decision mentally, and I felt it to the core of my bones. I want to do that. It could be a master's degree, it could be a course, it could be buying a car. In this case, for me, it was this course. And I remember the price was at the time something like, let's say that it was 487 pounds. Maybe it was 5, I don't remember, but let's say that it was 487 for the first 2 modules or something like that. I'm not joking that within days, but maybe 4 days, I'm not talking even in a week and a half, like 4 or 5 days maximum, I received a letter in the post for the first time in 8 years of living in the UK from HMRC, the tax man, like the IRS of the UK, never sent me a letter with a check saying that they overcharged me in tax. And it was the exact, but I'm not joking, the exact amount to the penny of what the course cost. And I got that in the mail. And I saw the date. It was actually printed like 3 days before. So they sent it in the post after I made that decision. I didn't want to question it. I didn't even look into why they miscalculated that, because that was the first and only time they ever did that. And things are very straightforward in the UK. I mean, if you have one job with one salary, your tax is your tax. There's not a lot of room to miscalculate it. I paid for the course. 6 months later, I wanted to do the follow-up, like the advanced version, and exactly the same thing happened. And I'm not joking, and I wasn't even thinking of this, another check for the exact amount of the course. Those are the only 2 times I ever got the tax man to give me a credit for exactly what I needed. Now, that, of course, my skeptical mind thought, oh, maybe that was going to happen anyway. But this is where we start to sabotage ourselves. If I start thinking that, oh, that was going to happen anyway, that was not me that caused it, and I kind of discount my act in that, I will start to sabotage other things that could come in future. And that is a problem, because it starts to give me inconsistent results. So what I thought is, well, what is the probability? And I really started to calculate it. I can't remember the numbers, but I thought I'm going to calculate the probability based on like 27 factors. And I started to do proper statistical probabilities that this was an accident. And it was 1 in a trillion. It was like a ridiculous probability that the exact amount in the exact time that I needed it could come like that. I knew that intuitively that was like that. But that's one of the first examples that I had of a very specific thing of the law of attraction. When you get to bigger things, which are more about, I want to be a different person because I don't like X, Y, and Z about myself. It could be a personality trait. It could be health, or it could be your, career, and you want to change your life. You want to do something different. You want to attract different friends because maybe you don't like your friends. Maybe your friends bully you, make you feel bad. You will always have those friends that are really negative and they simply absorb energy from you and make you feel, well, yes, you can change all of that. And you start to make decisions that lead you there. Sometimes it has to be radical. You know, if I want to eat healthily, and I remember when I started, my house was full of junk food. I threw it all away. Of course, you can all buy it back, but thankfully at the time, I didn't have the money to just buy anything. I had a budget for the supermarket. So when I threw all of the junk food away, I was just left with healthy food. And I just made sure I only bought healthy food at the time and started to lose weight and do something. So doing helps. Why? You start to see changes. It reinforces your belief system. It makes you think, as opposed to my previous 20 years where I thought I can never lose any weight. And I was like 10, well, it was only 10 kilos more than now. And I want to lose another 7, but I never lost any weight. So when I suddenly managed to lose 10, I thought, okay, this is possible. And then maintain that. So your belief system starts to change. And this works, of course, in any setting. We could be talking about, you know, how to lose weight in a healthy way without even mentioning the law of attraction. But it is the law of attraction. The only thing is, when we think about the law of attraction, we always think of the extremes. Let me attract the lottery win. Everybody wants, well, many people, not everybody wants to do the lottery win, but imagine if you want that. It's possible, yes, but do you really at your core believe it is? I don't. For me, like, I know myself, I know that I'm going to start thinking it's 1 in 35 billion chances of hitting these numbers for that. I will self-sabotage. So I don't even try it. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for you. There are people that do. But it's about what's important for you. And for me, that's the third thing to think about. What do you really want? And it seems like a simple question. Usually when you're older, you know better, but when you're 20, sometimes you don't. And if you don't really know what it is that you want, you may be chasing things that are, not only are they not good for you, because who knows what's good for whom, but they may not be the things you really want. You may be trying to get things that other people want and that you see as, I need that. I need the bigger house, the bigger car, the bigger this, the bigger salary. But actually, if you look at, let's say, the pyramid of needs, human needs, you know, we need shelter, we need food, we need love, we need 4 or 5 basic things, and we're happy. Levels of those, yes, they can vary. But what do I really want with my life? And sometimes it can take years to find out. So if you don't know, well, how are you going to start to attract that? Start with the little things. If, for example, and I hear a lot of people that when they come to coaching, for example, they say, oh, you know, let's say the job. I always have really bad luck with my job. And I always find like a really bad boss and I get fired every 6 months. And that, of course, turns into a pattern. And it's kind of like a self-fulfilled prophecy where I started a new job already thinking, oh, they're going to fire me in 6 months. My, you know, boss is probably my boss doesn't like me. And if they're not talking to me, they must be talking about me. We start to do all of these things. So when I say at the beginning, we all are expert manifestators or manifestors, we are, it's just that we're not doing the right things. So what is the algorithm? Obviously, first, find out what your beliefs are, write them down, and really write them down. And you may not, it may take you months to figure them, like all the key ones, but what do I believe about health? What do I really believe about health? Because it's a big question. For example, if I asked my parents about that, they believe that frail health in old age is inevitable. That's the experience they had with their parents. That's what they keep repeating to themselves every day. You know, if they fear falling, guess what? They have fallen because they keep being afraid of falling down. And they're not that old, by the way. So your beliefs about health matter. So what do you believe? And start to write it down. Do you believe about, you know, foods that do X, Y, and Z to you? Do you think that eating bread is bad? Because some people feel that eating bread is bad. And of course, if you have a condition, it may be bad for you. But if we blow things out of proportion, your body will react. So what do I believe? Do I believe that getting cancer is inevitable? My grandfather, for as long as I remember, he always thought he was going to get cancer. And he got it. And he's like, well, I'm not saying that he caused it to himself, because that would be insensitive, especially to him, because he doesn't see life in this way. So I never mentioned that to him. But we cause these things to ourselves. We cause our diseases. We cause everything that we think about, positive and negative. So what do I believe really? What do I believe about money, about health, about relationships, about friendships, about jobs, about success, about being free of financial slavery? Write it all down. And first, I mean, I'm still writing mine down for years. You will keep discovering things you didn't know you thought or believed, because they were invisible to us. And those are the best beliefs to find, because once you nail it and you find, wow, when that happened to me as a child, I never thought about it, but that's what I've been thinking about all of this time. And you start to realize that actually that's not true, because, and then you look for evidence in others, that doesn't happen that way. And you start to change it. So step one, write down your beliefs. Second, figure out what you want. You can start with little things, but for me, I don't know, I like to go for the key stuff. So what is the core thing that I want and need right now? And not think about it in terms of wants and needs. Because the more you think about, I want, I need this, you are wanton of something, you will just attract the lack of. You will be focused on the wanting, on the needed. Oh, I need money. The feeling you're attracting and the thought you're attracting is the fact that you don't have that. And this is why you see in many law of attraction courses and books and videos, when they say, oh, focus on it as if you already had it. But if you don't believe you can have it, it's counterintuitive, because you're going to start telling yourself, I have all the money in the world that I need, but you don't believe it. So what do I want? Money. Is it really the money that you need, or is it the financial independence and the ability to provide for your family? Focus on what it feels like to be able to do those things. Focus on the positive aspects of whatever it is that you want to do, rather than thinking that you want this. What would it feel like if I had it already? And it could be a physical thing like a car. What would it feel like to drive this particular model? And turn off your skeptical mind that, oh, but that car costs $100,000. How am I ever going to afford it? If that's important to you, guess what? You may find it on a sale, like a X display version for, if it's 100,000, maybe you find it for 50, and maybe 50 is more affordable. If that's what you want. If it's about financial independence, to provide for your family, leave something for your children, or simply live comfortably by yourself, focus on what that would feel like. Without getting and this is like 5 minutes. I'm not saying spend half an hour a day on it. 5 minutes. How would you see that? It could be that you see the statement of your mortgage fully paid off. It could be that you feel, I give you my example. What I wanted when I was 24, 25 is, I just want to be able to go to the supermarket and not have to compare the prices of this egg or that egg and the 10-cent difference. I'm going to buy that one. I'd love to go, and this is not like a luxury shopping. My feeling was, I want to go, put everything I want in the cart, pay for it, and not give it a second thought. Not millionaire stuff. This is just stuff of, well, you're moving away from being a student into a professional who can do those things within a certain limit. So that small step, it felt doable to me, because I saw other people do that. Why can't I do that? And then, of course, you take that to the next level. Well, I would love to be able to just go on holidays twice a year. You start to think things that for you are necessary to be happy, that you want to have, and you start to attract it. So list all the things you want, and really list them, like, and in this stage, without limit, without judging yourself. Say, I want to be a bestseller author because I love writing novels, but I don't know how to start, but I want to do that. Write it all down. Some things will feel magical and like, it's never going to happen. That's fine. Just turn that part of your head down, but not ignore it. Tell yourself, that is something that might take some time based on my current belief system, but I'm not going to say that it's impossible, because everything we want to do should be possible. In fact, it is possible. I'm just going to accept that that's going to take a little bit longer for my current way of thinking. So you don't shut it down, and you allow yourself the time, but that's going to take some time. Because if we think about how this works out of the body, If you are out of the body, and I know this is not the session on out-of-body experience, whatever you think of happens instantly. There's no lag. If I think of a red apple in my hand, I will have it. I will see it. I can even bite it and feel what it tastes like. And it depends on how. I will break for questions in a second. Yes, thank you, because reminded me. Otherwise, I'll be talking for another hour, so we can stop here. But if you think about that out of the body, and you can do that instantly, it's because out of the body, the energy that everything is made of, this is energy, everything is E equals mc squared. Physical stuff is energy. It's just atoms moving and vibrating. Out of the body, the thought and the reaction from an energy perspective is instantaneous. In our physical reality, things take time. This glass of water takes time to be built, filled with water, brought here. We live in a certain set of rules that are very hard to change, because we live in a consensual reality where the belief systems of 8 billion people on this planet make it up. And at least my belief system is, I cannot just change that. I'm not going to fly out the window and fly, because I know that I can't. So there are certain rules within which we live that are so ingrained in our brain that if I start to think, oh, I'm going to materialize a glass of water and drink it, my subconscious, even if I want to believe it consciously, my subconscious will say, that's not possible. That's not part of the rules. So we have to be picky about those things, but also understand they take some time. If I visualize a chair, well, it might take me 6 months to have that chair, either because I have to save to buy it, or I have to make it myself, and it will take some time to make it. It's not going to appear magically next to me. So whenever you have that list of things and they feel too ambitious, or turn off your skeptical mind and think, I will deal on how to get that later, but for now, that's what I want to have, and I know the reasons, and I really want that. It will happen somehow, and it will take some time. That's fine. I'm not going to say no. So that's that step. So I'm going to stop there because I've been talking for quite a while. There's probably quite a lot of questions.